Netflix, where we're going to be talking Penelope Cruz and Anna de Armas, but not that much because, when you get those two in a movie, you got to make sure that they just get these supporting roles for sure. The Wasp Network from Olivier Assayas. No.
Assayas. Yeah.
Assayas. So this dropped at the Venice Film Festival back in September 2019. Released in France and then dropped on Netflix this past weekend, starring, as I mentioned, Penelope Cruz, Ana de Armas, Edgar Ramirez, Wagner Moura, Gael Garcia Bernal. I mean, stacked cast here. Leonardo Sbaraglia. And man, to have this much talent in a movie and get this kind of output is just really frustrating. And like I said, I think the story is really interesting. But I think where I feel most frustrated with this is you have Ana de Armas and Penelope Cruz, who every time they're on screen, you just want to watch them. They're super captivating and engaging. And the story revolves around them for like 25 minutes out of a 2-hour and 15-minute movie. Really frustrating. How did you feel watching it?
Yeah, you have to think that Penelope and Anna took their roles because after reading the scripts, knowing these weren't like huge roles, they probably took these because Olivier Assayas has a big reputation as an international filmmaker. I actually haven't seen any of his movies to this point, but Personal Shopper in 2016, Kristen Stewart has been on my list for some time. I know he's nominated for a Best Foreign Language Film in the past, and is definitely generally just a presence at film festivals when he makes movies. So you have to think that's why they got invested, but it's really a bit of a clunker because the movie just has so much going on and it's quite convoluted, which really is a shame, not just because of the cast, but like you said, this is a really interesting story that I think, if told in a better way, would I think really resonate. It's Cuba, but it's not Cuba as we come to always know it, like in the peak of Castro and the missile crisis. It's after the Soviet Union fell. It's in the 90s, right? Mm-hmm. And this whole thing about spies and moles and terrorist action in Cuba, and then Cuban spies within those terrorists that are anti-Castro. It's very fascinating, but the problem is the movie doesn't make it coherent enough. We keep getting introduced to new characters, new organizations, new acronyms. The passage of time is quite unclear and seems to change scene to scene, and then almost seems like there's like non sequitur things always, like when we just meet new people and have to like invest in them for a bit, like when we get the El Salvador guy who does the bombings in Havana, right? And we spend time with that guy, and like he got fucked over. But like how can that land with the audience? You don't have enough time. And then we get back to Penelope Cruz to end the movie. Like it's just it's such a mess.
The El Salvador thing, I think, is a really good encapsulation of what is wrong with this movie, right? Like you are left very confused. You cut to the scene where this kid is doing these bombings and then gets kind of whisked away and you don't see him again. It's maybe like a 10, 12-minute scene. And then at the end of the movie, they give you an update on that person. They tell you what happened to him and where he is today. It's like, why would I ever want to know? Because I was investing in this guy for less than 10 minutes and don't really care. I think the heart of the movie is the relationship between Penelope Cruz and Edgar Ramirez. It's supposed to be this like withstanding this very complex network of spying, double spying almost in a way. And Penelope Cruz being the woman that stands by her man who's doing this for God and country. But I think the story that lands the hardest is Ana de Armas, who really is just this like, I don't know, drive-by shooting almost in this whole thing where she's just totally used and then left and is kind of left to like be exposed by the media, kind of exploited by this guy who then says the thing he misses most is his Jeep back in America.
Jeep Cherokee.
Yeah, totally devastating. And Ana de Armas is great in this.
Yeah, she really sells it as the disgruntled wife character. It's not the best role, but she again is quite compelling, like she often is.
And I think some of the some of the male characters in were not emotive or strong enough in their role to be playing alongside such charismatic female actors. It's just a bit of a confusing movie, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, I think another sign that the movie clearly wasn't working is there's these two big data dumps of exposition via narration.
Yep.
Oh, there's all these other guys being spies in Miami too. You have no idea who they are,
Nope.
why they're spies. Doesn't matter. Just know they're there, know they're acting, and when you see them get arrested at the end, just get that point. Like,
yep.
It's a mess. And I think maybe if this was stripped back and we focus on these themes and this history, but maybe not do all of the people that got arrested, maybe just focus on Edgar Ramirez, who plays Renee, I forget his last name. Maybe focus on them.
Yeah, Gonzalez.
You know? There's too many moving parts in the way it's told, and you can tell that just the plotting just kind of gets away from Olivier. So
yeah, I really loved when Gael Garcia Bernal's Geraldo Hernandez pops up, because the way when he's explaining to his wife why he's going over to do this, he's like, "There's all these spies in America, but they need someone to get them in line, to like organize them." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, I thought that guy who's like recruiting them over in America is like organizing them. Like, what is? It was I don't know. I found myself to be really just like lost in the sauce throughout this movie, and really disappointed, because I think when you have this, that much talent and that kind of story, it could have been so much more. So I don't know. Any last thoughts before we move on to, I think, a better movie?
Yeah, you can skip this one. Read the Wikipedia. Good story.
Definitely a good story.